He's facing a serious backlash for, you guessed it, being creepy. We begin tonight with our Hannity Watch on the radical 2020 extreme Democratic socialist. Well, he hasn't yet formally entered the race, but already, well, creepy Uncle Joe is facing 2 separate allegations now of inappropriate touching and a lot more. Just a short time ago, a Connecticut woman named Amy Lapos told the Hartford Courant, quote, "He put his hand around my neck. He pulled me in to rub noses with me. When he was pulling me in, I thought he was going to kiss me on the mouth." Meanwhile, the first accusation came from former Democratic lawmaker Lucy Flores in Nevada, who encountered the vice president backstage at a political event in 2014. She claiming crazy Uncle Joe got close to her from behind, was sniffing and smelling her hair, and planted an unsolicited kiss on the back of her head, saying, quote, "My brain couldn't process what was happening. I was embarrassed. I was shocked. I was confused." Let's take a look.
Eva Longoria was there. We were all lined up next to the stage. Eva was in front of me. Joe Biden was behind me. I'm kind of preparing myself to give these remarks. It's the very last days before the election. And very unexpectedly and out of nowhere, I feel Joe Biden put his hands on my shoulders, get up very close to me from behind, lean in, smell my hair, and then plant a slow kiss on the top of my head.
All right, smelling someone's hair from behind, rubbing noses, kissing a stranger, some on the lips. Who does that? Apparently Joe Biden, and he does a lot. Now, creepy Uncle Joe is a nickname that he's earned through the years. Look at your screen. Cringe-inducing, very awkward touching, grabbing, kissing, hair stroking, and smelling, and nose rubbing. And the woman you just heard from told Politico, quote, "It's so easy to Google creepy Biden. Everyone is entitled to due process and the presumption of innocence." But the problem here for Joe Biden is there are dozens and dozens of pictures and videos showing these kind of encounters. Biden offered a half-hearted apology, saying he doesn't believe he ever acted inappropriately. And that brings us to a very important question. Will the Democratic Party hold Biden to the same believe all women, I believe, zero tolerance standard that they have utilized so vigorously against Republicans? By the way, where are all the Kavanaugh I believers? You know, so far, the radical socialist 2020 Democrats who don't want Biden to win, they're coming out against the former VP, but obviously that's for political expediency. And creepy Uncle Joe's superfans in the mainstream media, they're singing a much different tune. They love him. Take a look.
To make a big kerfluffle out of this with a man who's done nothing but spend his life in the service of others, I think is just wrong. What else is he supposed to do? You know, Lucy, I'm sorry I, got too close to you. I mean, seriously, what else is he supposed to do?
It's one person of an allegation that's 5 years old, and that cannot negate or change or diminish in any way Joe Biden's very strong record empowering women.
He is extremely affectionate, extremely flirtatious in a completely safe way. But are we allowed to bring up that Lucy Flores is a huge Bernie person and she has, political connections that might be counter to Biden's goals, and that this could be, hold on, is it okay to bring up this could be politically motivated?
No surprise sucking up to creepy, crazy Uncle Joe. That's the same media mob who tried to ruin Judge Kavanaugh's life over wild 30-year-old uncorroborated allegations and some cryptic high school yearbook posts. Don't expect the media to ever properly vet Joe Biden. They didn't do it in 2008 to the chosen one, the one that gave them thrills up their leg, Barack Obama. They're not going to do it to any of the 2020 candidates on the extreme Democratic Socialist side. So it will be up to us here on this program, because there are so many red flags about Joe Biden, other than this constant need to touch and stroke and kiss and rub noses. Look, I'll let you be the judge of the pictures you see. I'm personally not a fan of people that get right in your grill. We've all met people like that, right? They're so close to your face that your noses almost do touch. Even if you take a step back, they move in more. And people that kind of massage other people, go up and rub in their shoulders and want to kiss others on the lips. You don't even know them out. A lot of this creeps me out. but you'll decide. Tonight we start with Biden's, though, sketchy past on race in America. This will be an issue for him. For a Democratic Party so obsessed with identity politics, this is not a good look for a presidential candidate. Take a look.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
What kind of a chance would a northeastern liberal like Joe Biden stand in the South?
Better than anybody else. And you don't know my state. My state was a slave state. My state is a border state. My state is the 8th largest black population in the country. You got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
First mainstream African-American, articulate, clean, that's storybook. Wow. All right, that's right. So the person currently polling highest in the Democratic primary is a man who called the president clean, articulate, and storybook, man. He bragged that his home state was a slave state. You can't work in a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. That's your Democratic frontrunner. And no surprise, considering in 1975, most of the media will never bring this up. A younger Senator Biden fought hard against a practice used to desegregate schools known as busing. In other words, he didn't want integration. Take a look.
I think the concept of busing, which implicit in that concept is the question you just asked, or the statement within the question you just asked, that we are going to integrate people so that they all have the same access and they learn to grow up with one another and all the rest, is a rejection of the whole movement of black pride.
Now, that very same Biden told the local newspaper, quote, "I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father, grandfather. I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago." 2 decades later, as chair of the Senate's Judiciary Committee, Senator Biden presided over Justice Clarence Thomas's confirmation, which we know turned into a circus, Justice Thomas calling it a modern-day lynching. Biden offered an apology. Well, just last week, he went on an apology tour because he offered it to Anita Hill, the accuser of Justice Thomas. He's been on this tour now apologizing for over a week. Take a look.
Anita Hill, a professor, showed the courage of a lifetime, talking about her experience being harassed by Clarence Thomas. We knew a lot less about the extent of harassment back then, over 30 years ago. But she paid a terrible price. She was abused through the hearing. She was taken advantage of. Her reputation was attacked. I wish I could have done something. There was a real and perceived problem the committee faced. There were a bunch of white guys. No, I mean it sincerely, a bunch of white guys.
Remember, Anita Hill did follow Clarence Thomas to another job after the so-called incidents happened, but I guess facts don't want to be discussed at this time. He hasn't even formally jumped into the race. Biden is on his first apology tour. Don't be fooled. Amtrak Joe tries to paint himself as a sympathetic champion of the people. Look behind the scenes. We have discovered, and we will reveal in great detail in the days and weeks ahead, shady, swampy behavior. Back in 2014, while Joe Biden was the vice president, his son Hunter accepted a board seat on Ukraine's, one of the largest oil and gas companies, owned by a Ukrainian oligarch facing international money laundering allegations. Naturally, this raised serious ethical questions and even some scorn from the left. According to author Peter Schweitzer, in his brand new book, Secret Empires, while Hunter Biden was working at this Ukrainian oil company, a series of very suspicious foreign financial transactions flowed to an account used by Hunter Biden, including a multi-million-dollar deposit from that company. Now, keep in mind, this all occurred while his father was vice president. And get this, serving as one of the key point persons for the Obama administration's anti-corruption message in Ukraine. Well, any of this sound familiar, eerily similar to what we learned about the Clinton Foundation? There is a lot to unpack here, and we will have full coverage of this story in the days and weeks ahead. Same story with China, by the way. Just one more example of hypocrisy from the left. You got Clinton, Biden, everybody in between. Democrats seem to get a free pass on everything. Abuse of power allegations, claims of racism, sexual harassment. Well, conservatives, Republicans, I believe, demonize guilt by accusation, with or without evidence. Oh, and by the way, yeah, his son, while he's doing these deals in China and Ukraine, oh, we'll get to China tomorrow, guess what? He was on Air Force Two with his father. Got a free trip to do these deals. Let's look at the Commonwealth of Virginia, more example of hypocrisy. Democratic governor, attorney general, they both admitted to dressing up in blackface, being extremely racist in the 80s. Are they facing any consequences? Nope. What would happen if it was a Republican? And there's a lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax. Two separate women have made serious allegations, sexual assault and violent rape. And yet to this day, the I Believers, Democrats in Virginia, they have done nothing to hold Fairfax accountable, and deafening silence from the very people saying I believe in the Kavanaugh case. So the party that constantly tells you and us to believe women, all women, well, they don't seem capable of accusing one of their own unless they want to beat them in a primary. That's why the lieutenant governor, Fairfax, his first accuser, Vanessa Tyson, was compelled to speak out. Earlier today, we have the tape.
He's pushing down, and I couldn't hold my neck up. And I didn't know what was going on. I honestly didn't know what was going on. And then the next thing I know, like, my head is like literally in his crotch. Sexual assault is an epidemic that's taking place around the world, across our country, every day.